Hey, want to know the secret to really putting your scale shapes to use? Well, it's going to be combining them to play diagonally across the fretboard. Let me show you what I mean. So if you've seen my previous videos, or you know the pentatonic scale across the fretboard, then you know a few different scale shapes, which I like to call modes, and how to map them out across the fretboard. So far, I've only looked at 2 scale shapes at a time, which would allow you to connect any one scale to the one on either side of it. And this is good for mapping out all the notes across the fretboard, but when we really get to playing, we're going to want to combine more than just 2 of them. Specifically, if we put 2 of these position shifts together, we can combine 3 of them. This also means we'll start moving across the fretboard diagonally, from lower frets on lower strings to higher frets on higher strings. So for our first example, let's go back to the minor pentatonic scale, which we usually would have combined with the major pentatonic scale right next to it. But now, since we also know how to combine the major and Dorian pentatonic scale, we can add the Dorian one in there too. So now we can look at getting through all 3 of these scale shapes, switching from minor to major and from major to Dorian. I'm still going to start by looking for places I can switch up on my first finger, which I can see on the A string and on the G string. So let's give it a try. I'm going to start the minor pentatonic scale down on the 3rd fret to give myself plenty of room to move up. As soon as I get to the A string, I move up by 2 frets, and I'm in major pentatonic. Once I get here, I move up 2 frets again, and I'm in Dorian pentatonic. My slight adjustment in Dorian. And there I've put 2 switches together to combine all 3 shapes. And of course, I've got to go back down. My slight shift, shifting down by 2 frets into the major pentatonic, and down by 2 frets again, back to the minor. Let me show you that one more time, starting back in my minor pentatonic. Up by 2 frets into the major. Up by 2 frets again into the Dorian. Back down by 2 frets into the major. Down again to the minor. And there you can see how combining 2 shifts and all 3 scale shapes gives us a diagonal path across the neck, which increases the range of notes that we have access to. So let's have a look at another example. This time I'm going to start in the Phrygian pentatonic, go through the Mixolydian pentatonic, and land in the minor pentatonic. Again, looking for some good places to switch, I can shift up on my first finger on the D string, and I can shift up on my 4th finger on the B string. So, starting with my Phrygian pentatonic down on the 3rd fret, shifting up by 2 frets here into the Mixolydian, shifting up by 3 frets here into the minor, and of course I've got to go back down, shifting down by 3 frets into the Mixolydian, and down by 2 frets, back to the Phrygian. Let me run through that one more time, starting with the Phrygian again. Up to the Mixolydian. Up to the minor. Back to the Mixolydian. Back to the Phrygian. And once you really get to know the layout of your scales, you can actually switch from the Mixolydian to the minor on your first finger by putting your first finger where your second finger usually goes on the B string. So if I start where I shift into my Mixolydian, the next note here on the B string, which I'd usually play with my second finger, if I put my first finger on there, and then shift it up by 2 frets, I'm in the minor pentatonic. And I can do the same shift going back down. Bringing my first finger down by 2 frets, and landing on my pinky on the next note. To do that, I had to adjust my fingers and my position, which requires me to know the scale shapes pretty well and how they're laid out on the fretboard. But once you do, it can make shifts like that a little bit easier. It's good to start by shifting right from the position for one scale to the position for the next, so you don't have to do any of those readjustments. Again, once you really get to know the layout of the shapes, you can do all sorts of different shifts as long as you know how to adjust back into position once you get there. But for now, give these diagonal shapes a try, and once you've got them under your fingers, see if you can start from different modes and combine shifts to be able to move diagonally through the next 2 scale shapes. And next time around, we'll go beyond the pentatonic scale to the diatonic scale, a pretty important scale to know if you want to know harmony. But until then, happy practicing.